Hello, I'm Seth Wenning, and welcome to another AFI 100 Greatest American Film List review. Today we are doing Spartacus. Spartacus is only on the 2007 list at position 81. Let's go. Spartacus is a movie made in 1960 about the famed slave revolt in ancient Rome led by Spartacus. It's a very long film. While Howard Fast wrote the book, he was blacklisted. It was directed by Stanley Kubrick, and it helped. Spartacus, when it came out, helped in blacklisting because John F. Kennedy was running for president in 1960 when it came out, and he crossed the picket line to see Spartacus. The picket line was apparently soldiers. The reason why the soldiers were picketing was because Gene McCarthy accused us of writers and actors and directors of being communists in the 1950s just for notoriety. It was the fake news of the 1950s. And of course none of them were communists, but it made headlines just like fake news does today, and it got Gene McCarthy elected, and he became a powerful member of Congress. This way, spewing lies and doing what some politicians do. And that's why the servicemen were picketing the freedom. But it pretty much decimated the artistic community. People were outing other people and all this kind of Soviet type of war mindset. If you don't know what the Soviet Union is, it was communist Russia during 1918 to basically 1989, when the wall came down in Berlin. And typical practices included ratting out your neighbor, and so you would get censored from having them drug off to Siberia re-education camp. It was a horrible time, and this happened to a little bit in Hollywood, and people wouldn't get work because they were communists, even though they weren't. It affected so many lives. And this was one of the big movies that brought the blacklisters, former blacklisted artists, back into the Hollywood fold, and John F. Kennedy was played a part of that when he crossed that picket line. So the movie stars Kirk Douglas as Spartacus. Kirk Douglas is Michael Douglas's dad. He also produced Crassus, who's the anti-Spartacus. Spartacus the hero, Crassus the general enemy, was played by Laurence Olivier. Then there was Spartacus. I have the hardest name with these Roman names. Spartacus was played by Peter Ustinov, and he was the gladiator trainer who gets turned by Spartacus. Charles Lawton was Gracchus, who's another general who's the anti-Crassus, and Gene Simmons is Vernia, who is Spartacus' wife. So, film opens, Spartacus is a slave. He's chipping rocks and mining when he attacks a guard for whipping him, and he hamstrings him, which means he breaks his hamstring, and he's sentenced to death by starvation. This all is important because Crassus is in the area, and he tours the mine, and he sees this guy starving, and he figures this guy is strong and he's defiant. I'm going to buy him for my gladiator school. Gladiators were people who basically played for pleasure in the Roman Colosseum. You know, they would fight and die for the amusement of a crowd, kind of like WWE, but people actually died. And they weren't paid anything because they were slaves, but they were upper echelon slaves and not rock warrior slaves. He's bought, and he was brought up with hitters at the school, and they try to break him, and he won't break, and Verenia is sent in to entertain him, and he refuses to rape her because, you know, that's not really a good thing to do. So basically, he leads the slave rebellion and it destroys the school, and back in Rome, getting a little nervous about the slave rebellion because Crassus stole his woman. He bought her and said, bring her to my house, and that's actually what caused the slave rebellion. And, you know, he didn't want to get someone mad, steal their woman. And then the slaves under Spartacus are going throughout the countryside, inspiring slaves, drawing them, stealing money from the slave owners so they can take it to Rome. So, and their objective is only to go home and live as free men. They're not, oh, let's burn the Senate down. They just want to be free men. Meanwhile, Crassus is in the Senate, and he wants to take control of the Senate, which is the governing body of each Rome. Wants to be a dictator. Caesar is beneath him. Yeah, it's before Caesar. And he, in a calculating move, makes Gracchus think that he wants control of the army, and Gracchus, who is controller of the army, says, no, I'll lead a cadre of men and we'll get this Spartacus guy. And all along, Spartacus has great respect for him. He's a better leader than Crassus. Crassus is always in for himself, of course, like some politicians. Well, always. Spartacus, were he able to be in the Senate, he would be for all men and women if it were in modern day. So, you know, you got these two dealing personalities, the person who's a narcissist and the person who's for everyone, and they go, and the person who's for everyone inspires more loyalty. And even when in the final battle, when he says, you know, we must fight to the death, people are willing to go, okay, I'm cool with that because I'm already a slave, what else can they do to me? Spartacus ends up on the cross because want to make an example of him, even though Crassus is going, maybe he's going to be a martyr. In the final act, Spartacus, who was the guy who trained him as a gladiator, Mr. Peter Ustinov, takes Verenia and her child, Spartacus' son, away from Crassus, and they just escape. And as Spartacus is hanging on the cross, he is content to know that his son will not be a slave. And I think it's a long film. It's probably going to be hard to sit through. It's a famous film, but I think it still holds weight today as in what loyalty is money power corrupting people, and has talks about blacklisting, and today it might talk about something else. I don't know, depending on what your belief system is structured like. But it also is a very gay film. Also, and there was one scene where a slave was washing a guy in a hot bath. You know, that had to be cut out in some versions because it was too gay. I didn't think it was overtly gay. You can take it that way because watching it with my girlfriend and discussing that, oh yeah, the reason why it's a gay film is that, of course, if you're gay, you feel, especially in 1960, you feel persecuted by straight society because you have to closet yourself and you have to live by a strict, conformed rule, or you might be killed. Like one of the people who went to school with my dad graduated. I think he graduated in 1960 or 61. This film came out in 60, like I said before. He went to New York to be on Broadway. He was killed one night in New York. They had somebody outed him as gay and they just killed him. And this was just common practice, and the police didn't investigate because he's only gay. It's not like he's a person, it wasn't something they were doing like they would really do today. And it's very sad because the same thing happened to Saul Manille. Saul Manille was in Rebel Without a Cause. The review of it, it's one of the most famous films of teenage rebellion. Starred James Dean. It was the only film of James Dean's that came out when he was alive. So the Saul Manille guy was just his sidekick who he took under his wing. And in 1976, Saul Manille was performing in a play. His career didn't go the way that Dean's went when he was still alive until 76. He was killed in a parking garage. And, no one investigated properly. He was a gay guy. And we've come so much farther than that today. It's really good. But it's not like we have beat the thing. It's like a couple of years ago, it was the anniversary, the 50th anniversary of Dr. King being killed in Memphis. He fought for civil rights, of course, and just a sad reminder that, the people who speak up like Spartacus get nailed down. It takes a while for society to progress, and it's still progressing by no means. Is it perfect? We have lots of racism in our culture, in our society. We have lots of ill feelings about people who are gay and anyone who was different, including me, but not so much anymore, because most people see me as a guy. But even like in my family, well, not my family, but my girlfriend's family, one of her brothers may not like me because I have a disability, even though I went to high school with him. Well, he was ahead of me, so it's just part of life, and you've always gotta press the agenda further because we need to help people. We need to help people remain safe in our society. And that's what this film means to me. We can't have people being crucified all the time for whatever reason. And I guess that's where I'm going to end it. I guess we can go into hours and hours and hours talking about, but it's a good film. strong film. It was the highest grossing MGM film until Airplane came out 10 years later in 1970. So, it went from a blacklisted produced film, a blacklisted writer's book, to being the highest grossing film for 10 years. So that's very good. So if you like these things I'm doing, click like, subscribe, hit my bell, and visit my links in the dialogue box below if you want to see what I'm shooting this on and my gear and stuff. And really have a great weekend. It's going to be a good film weekend when it comes out. I think I'm going to see bloggers instead, like tonight. Maybe tomorrow I'll see Chappaquiddick, because again, that's a Kennedy thing involving Teddy Kennedy, the late senator. I know about him, but I don't know all about it. It's going to be interesting. I wonder what kind of political twist they're going to have on it. An alarm. I need to go get my approval for my I don't even remember what it's called, but it's like a retainer. It's going to help me with my soft palate issue, and that will be why I sound nasal. So wish me luck. Have a good day. Keep seeing those films I'll see at the movies.